Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Orc Rogues, where we bring to you anything nerdy, geeky, or just plain fun. My name is Thomas.
And my name is Derek.
Now, before we get into this episode, because we have some really cool stuff to talk about, we do want to remind all of you that we only have so much time to shoot this.
Yep.
Not saying that we're not putting all of our effort into it, but there is a lot to talk about in this. We will probably forget some of the stuff that we could potentially talk about, so let's get going.
Given that it could conceivably take days to talk about, yeah.
So anyways, as you'll recall, a couple of weeks ago, we discussed the new trailer for Star Trek Discovery. Well, that's not entirely true. We did not discuss a new trailer. Me and our guest Michael discussed it. So Derek, what were your thoughts on the trailer?
I'm actually more excited about it now than I was before I saw the trailer. For me, anyway, aside from just all the Star Trek stuff, which we'll get into, I was blissfully unaware that Michelle Yeoh was in the cast. She's amazing. If you're not familiar with her, she hasn't done a lot of sci-fi stuff. So if you're not familiar with her, though, she is a action superstar. Does all her own stunt, or did. She may still. I don't know. Worked with Jackie Chan a lot in the '90s and other things like that. But she is a freaking action superstar. So yeah, I'm excited. And also, she's a solid actress.
Now, a couple of weeks ago, when we were first discussing the trailer, me and Michael were a little vague on what we were seeing. And I hadn't had a chance to get a good look at the poster for the series, which clearly shows the flying turd that is Discovery on the poster. The ship that we actually see in the trailer, because we do not see the Discovery. The ship that we see is the Shenzhou,
something like that. Yeah. Well, feel free. You know what?
No one said it in anything yet.
Feel free to.
So we're not sure.
If you know, feel free to spell it phonetically or something, because we'd like to know. Actually, I mean,
It's
like I feel like I should know.
We'll know soon enough. Yeah. But it is not the Discovery in the trailer. It is Shenzhou, Zhu. That's just the way I'm going to say it from now on.
That's fair.
And it looks amazing.
It really, really does. Not just the production value, which looks incredible.
Oh yeah.
There is a lot of stuff going on, man. It is a ton of. It's almost too much to pack into a trailer, but they did it well.
They did. And granted, it's a trailer for a TV series, so you can only get so much in there anyways. The problem is that it doesn't exactly look like a pre-Kirk.
No, it really doesn't, does it?
It doesn't. It is beautiful, and the trailer looks like it's going to be an amazing sci-fi series. Now, that being said, there are some big issues in this trailer.
Yeah. Which doesn't mean we won't enjoy it just as much.
Of course. I'm going to watch it because it's a Star Trek series, and we haven't had a Star Trek series since the end of Enterprise.
You know, a lot of these problems come from what we discussed a long time ago, in that it is a prequel.
It is.
And I still hold the opinion I had before. I still hold it now. I wish that it wasn't. I'm glad to see a prequel. I'm glad to see new Star Trek. That's great. I wish they'd continued, from back and Voyager, Deep, all those things. Mm-hmm. I wish it was a continuation of the universe rather than a look back. That's just me personal. Some people may disagree, but we run into a lot of the issues because of what it is.
Right. Which kind of brings us into our next topic. Still Star Trek related, but What's the deal with all the timelines? My gosh. So this is where we will not be able to talk about everything
No.
involved with the Star Trek timelines. They get far too confusing.
Yep.
And far too elaborate on top of that.
And there's a good chance we're not going to be always right during this
Oh
thing.
yeah, we will probably be dead wrong.
We don't
on
expect
some
to be.
things.
Some of y'all will disagree, and you know what? That's okay. Whether or not either, I don't know if anyone is actually correct. You know, I mean, it's
Completely and totally correct? No, probably
it's,
not.
Yeah, it's a
But-
TV show.
Yeah. It is. But there's been a lot of debate about what timeline Star Trek Discovery falls into. Now, if you are joining us not being a diehard Star Trek fan, let me set it up a little bit for you. So, years and years and years ago, we had the original series with William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy as Kirk and Spock, and that was the beginning of the original or prime timeline. Following that, of course, we had Picard and the Enterprise D, and then we get Janeway and Voyager, and I can't remember his name. Cisco
Cisco from
Cisco
DS9.
and
Yeah,
Deep
Cisco.
Space Nine.
Yeah.
And then we got that lovely... and all the movies factored in there as well. Then we got that lovely little series called Enterprise. Very simply called.
Yep.
And everyone got
been a long
really
road
confused. Oh, no, don't you dare.
From I'm sorry. Oh God, I apologize to everybody.
All right. So, people were a little bit confused because in Enterprise we have very different technology that tried to be reminiscent of the original series because it took place before the original series. And we have some stuff that's not really canon to the series.
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
Yep.
Is it the original timeline? Well, let's look into it.
Well, let's do our best to look into it.
We're trying here.
We're gonna try.
So the reason why some people say that it is a separate timeline is because of the events of Star Trek First Contact.
Right.
And I don't know about that. Because in First Contact, the crew of the Enterprise D, Picard's Enterprise, goes back in time chasing after the Borg
Right.
and basically cause Zefram Cochrane to take the first warp flight and then be spotted by the Vulcans.
Right.
Now, granted, they had to do this because the Borg kind of messed it up the first time. So that they were trying to restore the timeline. Does that create an alternate timeline? Does it just fix the timeline that existed so that it happened anyways? Is Enterprise part of either of those timelines? Or neither? Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, we're talking time travel here, and time travel is
Wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey.
wimey. Yeah, honestly, that describes it pretty well. It's all over the place, isn't it? I mean,
Oh, it really is.
Now, your thought pattern, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Your thought pattern with the events of First Contact is that it's still the prime timeline, right? Is that wrong in your way of thinking? It's like because
Yes
it
and
all
no.
happened, it's still kind of
My thoughts on it are that it's an alternate past, but it leads to the same prime timeline.
Okay.
And the reason why I say that is because this is not remotely the first time that a crew of a starship has gone back in time and somewhat altered events
that's
to
true.
get the same result.
Yep.
So you have Picard and Crusher and Riker and all of them going back in time, messing with stuff, trying to fix it. And the idea is that they fixed it well enough to return future events to what they normally would have been. So,
at least approximately well enough.
Close
Well
enough
enough.
so that it doesn't deviate far enough to create a new timeline. Now, if you go with the whole butterfly effect theory, then it's going to be a new timeline anyways, because this, and this happened, which leads to this, and this, and wibbly wobbly, timey wimey.
Yeah. Technically, we have. How many do they have? Right? It's just A, B, and C, right? That are the primary timelines.
If you take certain theories into account,
maybe?
yeah, sure.
All right, so it's roughly that, but really, it would be just like thousands, right?
Oh,
It would
absolutely.
just be like all over the place.
Which was discussed
Yep.
during Star Trek: The Next Generation. When and I do not remember the title of the episode. I apologize. I'm not even going to notate it. But the episode where Dwarf keeps jumping time. Dwarf? Did I say dwarf?
You sure did.
Wow. Words are hard.
That's beautiful.
Oh,
in space.
My mother has a smooth forehead. The episode where Worf keeps jumping between alternate timelines, and there are dozens of them in just that episode. That only explores a tiny portion of what there is. The other theory is that Enterprise is kind of an alternate timeline within itself. Because of the interference of the Time Council, is that?
I can't remember what they're called.
Daniel.
Yeah,
because of the
we'll go with
interference
Daniel.
from Daniel. Well, that was the character's name.
Was it Time Council? Gosh, it's going to irritate me now.
But he went back in time
Yeah.
from the future to the Enterprise series and altered events anyways.
Yep.
So at that point, I would assume that there is a different timeline created.
Yep.
Now, is that the timeline that leads to what we see in the original series, or does that create a separate timeline? Now, that we're not entirely certain of. But what we are certain of is that one of those two timelines at some point lead to the event of Vulcan being destroyed by Nero,
Yep.
which prompts Nero and Spock going back in time, and Nero subsequently destroying the USS Kelvin, creating the Kelvin timeline, which is the timeline that the Star Trek movies fall into. Now, here is where I have a problem with these timelines.
The timelines create lens flares.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is not okay. The change of timeline also changes the entire view of how we're going to build starships.
That's right.
In the
I actually
past
forgot about that.
before
That's
the
right.
change of it.
Yep.
See, this is where I have the problem. The movie starships, as pretty as they are, do not get it. They are they're gorgeous.
Yeah.
Do not have the same structure as the television starships, even before the timeline was changed by Nero destroying the Kelvin.
Right.
Other problem with this is that Captain Kirk, James T. Kirk, was not born on a starship.
Yep.
In the original timeline, he was born in Iowa.
Starship Iowa.
It was the state, actually.
Yeah, I know.
The Starship State, Iowa. Now, he was born in Iowa. He was not born on a starship. Nero coming and destroying the Kelvin after Kirk is born does not change where he would have been born.
Nope.
That is the problem I have with that creating the separate timeline. The separate timeline was already created.
Yep.
Now, could that have been the separate timeline created by Daniel visiting the Enterprise, the NX-01 Enterprise?
Possibly. I mean, I can't think of a reason why not off the top of my head. I'm sure there is one.
I have a reason why not.
There you go.
The starships are not designed the same. Now, granted,
That's fair.
Granted, there could be an explanation for this. And, oh, by the way, let me explain what I mean by the starships are not designed the same. Enterprise, the original series, Next Generation, Voyager, and Deep Space Nine, and the Defiant. Defiant? That was a ship in Deep Space Nine. Yeah. All use view screens on the bridge, not windows. They clearly are running OS X. They're clearly Mac run ships. I mean, they have Siri built in.
Wow, man.
Sorry, I had to.
Can't decide if you're going to get flamed or not for that.
If I do, I deserve it. That was bad.
That's fair.
But they don't have windows. They use
Right.
view screens that can show them multiple angles, which is far more strategic. But then in the Kelvin timeline, before the timeline would have changed, we have these windows with the huge panoramic windows with these displays of what's going on.
They're pretty.
They're very
that's-
pretty,
that's
and
what
they
they
cause
were.
lots of lens flares.
Oh, man. That's what's causing the lens flare.
That's what's causing the lens flares. We
fair.
have it. This does not make sense if you're looking at it because of the timelines.
Right.
Unless they started using the windows because something from future Daniel coming to the NX-01 Enterprise told them, oh, by the way, Windows totally in 4,000 years from now. It wasn't that long.
Or even like we were talking a while back, Windows, sometimes useful. You know, I mean, if your camera breaks, you know, that's picking up the stuff for the viewfinder, you know, and whatnot, you're kind of stuck seeing nothing.
I would
Yeah.
much rather have the camera break than the glass.
Which is why either
Just saying.
glass, well, don't they have force fields?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Of course,
so
yeah.
just you know, glass and emergency force fieldy thing.
Fair. I'll
Yeah.
give you that one.
But being able to see, you know, good thing.
But still, changing an entire ship design,
I agree.
That does not make sense. And this is my problem with Star Trek Discovery. We don't know what timeline it falls into, even though the timelines don't make sense in the first place. We don't know what timeline it falls into. It has the look of the Kelvin timeline.
Yeah.
Should we say that that is caused by the Kelvin timeline, which we do not know? It has the look of the Kelvin timeline. But it was said early on that Discovery takes place in the original Prime timeline
Right.
by a crew that, for the most part, is no longer working on the series. So that may not be true. Originally, it was, however, announced that Star Trek Discovery would take place in the Prime timeline. We don't know for sure because a lot has changed since that was said. So, what are your thoughts?
You know, it occurs to me, we're talking all these timelines, and we're not even taking into account like the mirror
Oh,
universe, which just kind of mucks everything up.
yeah.
I forgot about it
So,
until
so
just
there's,
now.
there's that. There's the mirror universe where everyone's an evil copy of themselves. But let's face it, that's just kind of a really fun plot device.
It really was, actually. It's okay.
Then there's also the timeline where the crew of the Enterprise D meets up with the X-Men. How about that one? Oh, don't tell me you didn't know about that.
No. What?
Yeah.
Is that a thing?
There are
much-
comic books and novels that I'm wanting to say, sadly enough, are canon to both series.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, that has to happen in a movie.
Oh, yes.
I'd go see it.
I really hope Hugh Jackman would come back as Wolverine for that. And Patrick Stewart. Oh! Oh, I didn't even think about that.
That's funny as heck.
Well,
If they met up, Picard. and
my,
Professor-
you're a handsome fellow. I know, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I didn't think about it either, but yep, that is
Yeah.
absolutely true.
That would be amazing.
Yep, that would make me pretty happy.
Absolutely amazing. So, when it comes right down to it, let's face it, alternate timelines exist so that when questioned, the producers can say, alternate timeline.
Yep, it makes for a pretty good excuse. Which is okay. You know, I mean,
It's
honestly,
fine.
yeah, it's fine. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to all make sense. You know, that's one that so many people, and you know, it's fine. If they want to focus on that is absolutely fine to go in and try to figure these things out. I mean, it's actually fascinating. You know, while we were doing
yes.
while we were doing it and trying to kind of figure out what might be going on, it makes for a really interesting, just kind of study, I guess, for lack of a better word. And you can come up with some really, really interesting theories. And there are a lot of them out there that could be it. You know, I mean, they're pretty dang close.
Sure.
But you know, at the end of the day, it's a fun show. You know,
It is.
and actually not just a fun show. It's a meaningful show. You know, that's one thing about Star Trek that people just love. It's a very hopeful view of the future for mankind, and you know, I mean that it's beautiful in that. It really, really is. It's one of the things I've always loved about it.
And guys, that's what all of this really boils down to. Is it going to be good TV? Are we going to enjoy it? It's entertainment.
You know, it looks like fun. I mean, it looks
does.
like it has the potential of a very good show. One thing we didn't say, it looks like they have a really good balance of plot and action this time around.
Which
Possibly,
is
which
going
is
to be
interesting.
nice. Now personally, I prefer the whole, like on Next Generation, well, all of the other Star Trek series where you have a problem, you figure out how to solve the problem, solution gets thwarted, rework solution, problem solved.
I actually agree. I prefer plot driven. You know, I mean, I like some action. Some action's
Sure,
fine.
absolutely.
And most of the Star Treks had some action, but you know, they were really careful about the conflict and how they were resolved and how they were done, and you know, who the conflicts were between and that kind of things.
They tried to solve it diplomatically.
Yeah, if at all possible.
The movies, I feel like, have gotten largely away from that.
The movies are more action.
And I think that's a shame.
Yeah.
Because that was a big thing about the Federation of Planets. They're not warships. They're never warships.
Yeah.
If you look at any of the starships in the fleet, none of them are technically warships.
No, that's true.
Now, some of them are really good in battles, but none of them are technically warships. You have research vessels, you have cruisers, you have science vessels, research. You have medical vessels, you have escorts, but not technically warships.
Yep.
So, there's that. We'll see what happens. It looks like it's going to be pretty, anyways. Star Trek Discovery does.
Yeah, it really does.
And-
The what am I looking for? Well, like I said earlier, the production quality, the graphics and all the graphics. That's not right. CGI work and actually then the makeup work for that matter. All the special effects look beautiful. The sets look really, really nice. They've put some money into this. You know, it's going to be. I think it's going to be a good show.
I think it's going to be a good show. I'm not sure if it's going to be a good Star Trek show, but we'll see.
That you know what? That's fair.
I'm not condemning
That's
it until I see it. It's I'm going to be excited for it regardless. I'm going to watch it regardless. So we'll see what happens with it. And guys, don't get too caught up on the timelines. Enjoy the show. It's fun to discuss, but in the end, it's just something for you to enjoy.
And you know what? I mean, it kind of goes without saying. Everybody's been really great and all that sort of stuff in the interactions that we've had and the comments and things like that.
Yeah, you guys are awesome.
But, you know,
Really.
just to say, you know, it's, especially with these kind of things, you know, a lot of times people can get really kind of heated in their opinions, which is fine. You know, they can be passionate about what they want. But, you know, keep it civil in the comments, guys. I'm sure you will. You haven't not done that yet. And we can't tell you how much we appreciate that. It is awesome that we have a space where people can come together and discuss and, all that kind of stuff, and keep everything very very civil. I think Roddenberry would be proud of that, actually. So,
I have to agree.
Yeah.
So, guys, let's get talking about this. Tell us what you think.
Yep.
Talk about the timelines by all means. It's fun discussion.
Yep.
But like I said, in the end, it's a show. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit that like button. Discuss the crap out of the timelines in the comments. Let's keep it civil. If you haven't already done it, you need to hit the subscribe button. Why you haven't done it yet, I don't know. Maybe this is the first time you've watched us. In that case, welcome. We're glad you're here. But until next time, we are
Orcrogues.
Gosh, that was fun.
Dwarf.
And then, shut up. Oh my gosh. I can't believe I said that.
They really had some in-depth characters in those shows, man. They really did. I mean, like Wesley. Wow.